Here's what it says. I'll read it in Hebrew and then translate it. Habsorah kedosha shel Yeshua HaMashiach kifi Yochanan. The holy gospel of Yeshua the Mashiach according to Yochanan. Perek Rishon, chapter 1. Bereshit haya hadavar, v'hadavar haya etzel ha'elohim, v'ha'elohim hu haya hadavar. In the beginning was the Word, the Davar, and the Word was next to Elohim.
In the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word was God.
Now, that word next to is the Hebrew word etzel. You might be able to translate that as with. I think it's a bit of a stretch.
With is in King James.
Right, with, and the word was with God. Here it's etzel, which is next to. And I saw that, I'm like, wow, that's really interesting. Well, you have this verse in the New Testament. It's in Ephesians chapter 1, verse 20, which he worked in Christ, which he raised him from the dead, and seated him at his right hand in the heavenly places.
Ah, that's very close to.
I gotta wonder.
Next to.
I gotta wonder. It's literally next to, right? At the right hand. Hebrews 8:1. Now, this is the main point of the things we are saying. We have such a high priest who is seated at the right hand of the throne of the majesty in the heavens. So I gotta wonder if that's what's going on in this Hebrew edition of this Hebrew text of John that I've discovered in the Vatican. And it goes on and it says...
that goes back to the Psalms. Seated at my right hand till I make thy
Psalm
enemies thy
110.
footstool.
Okay. Wow. So...
See how this would stimulate their thinking. Daniel 7, 9, and 10 was actually a crucial passage. And there's a lot of rabbinic discussion, a lot of intertestamental discussion on this. The passage reads, "As I looked, thrones," notice the plural, "were set in place, were placed, and the Ancient of Days took his seat." Now we know who the Ancient of Days is. This is God. So God is seated now. His clothing was white as snow, hair of his head like wool. His throne was fiery flames. Its wheels were burning fire. This is language drawn from Ezekiel 1, where it's very clearly God on his throne chariot. Okay, so there's no ambiguity here. This is God. A stream of fire issued, came out from before him, so on and so forth. The court sat in judgment, and the books were opened. Now you say, well, what's the big deal? Well, if you go down to verse 13, "I saw in the night visions, and behold, with the clouds of heaven there came one like a son of man. And he came to the Ancient of Days and was presented before him." So there's a second figure here. They're both in the same verse, Son of Man, Ancient of Days, but it's to the Son of Man that everlasting kingship is given. Now we're going to talk about the description of coming on the clouds in heaven, because the Jewish community knew that was an epithet, a title that you would give only to deity and only to Yahweh. But Yahweh is already in the passage. So who's this other guy? And he's the Son of Man, in other words, one like a human being. So these were three fundamental passages, and we're going to come back to Daniel 7 later.
First and foremost, in consideration of the name, Son of Man, in the teachings of Jesus, we must recognize the conscious effort of Jesus to refer to early Jewish interpretations of the term Son of Man, a messianic title from Daniel chapter 7, verse 13. After all, when Jesus speaks about the end times, he uses apocalyptic imagery to communicate his message forcefully. Apocalyptic language was designed to reveal hidden matters which are known in part and difficult to grasp fully with the human mind. The apocalyptic teachings often sought to reveal the future coming of redemption. The work of the Messiah is not complete in the first coming of Jesus, but Jesus taught that the time will come in which the power and the glory of the Lord will be revealed as the Son of Man appears, and then they will see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. Luke chapter 21, verse 27. The mention of the cloud here in Luke 21, verse 7, was a strong allusion to Daniel chapter 7, verse 13. In both Daniel and Luke, the Son of Man is described as coming with the clouds. It is a vision of the supernatural power of God. "I saw in the night visions, and behold, with the clouds of heaven there came one like the Son of Man, And he came to the Ancient of Days, and was presented before him, and to him was given dominion and glory, and kingdom, that all people, nations, and language should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion, which shall not pass away, and his kingdom one that shall not be destroyed. Daniel chapter 7, 13 through 14. The term Son of Man in Daniel probably originally referred to the people of Israel as a collective group. By the time of Jesus, the people were looking for a person who would perform the task of the Son of Man. It was natural to associate the term in Daniel with the Messiah. Hence, when the early Jewish Bible translators rendered the book of Chronicles from Hebrew into Aramaic, they made a free translation in order to bring out the hidden meaning of the text, which spoke about the Messiah. They believed that the task would be fulfilled by an individual rather than a collective group. When they came to the proper name, Anani, in 1 Chronicles chapter 3, verse 24, they realized that in Hebrew this name means cloud. It reminded them of Daniel chapter 7:13, where the Son of Man is described as coming with the clouds of glory. The translator called attention to the messianic idea in ancient Jewish thought in order to bring out the natural associations between the term Son of Man in Daniel, the cloud man Anani, and the royal Messiah. 1 Chronicles chapter 3, verse 24 was translated Anani, the man coming with the clouds, in the King Messiah who is to be revealed. Those Jewish Bible translators saw a messianic significance for the Son of Man in Daniel chapter 7, verse 13. The term Son of Man, however, possessed a number of meanings in Hebrew and Aramaic, with the lofty associations for the name Son of Man from Daniel chapter 7, verse 13 in clear view. It is possible to examine the significance of the designation in the words of Jesus.
והאלוהים הוא היה הדבר, זה היה בראשית אצל האלוהים. This was in the beginning, next to Elohim. Of course, Elohim is the Hebrew word for God. It says, כל הדברים נעשו בו, ומבלעדיו לא נעשה דבר מכל אשר היה. All things were made through him, and without him nothing was made from all that was.
He was with God in the beginning, all things made through him, and apart from him nothing was made that has come into being.
בו היו החיים, in him was life. והחיים היו אור האנשים, and life was the light of men. והאור היה זורח באפלות, והאפלות לא הכילוהו. And the light was shining forth in the darkness, and the darkness could not contain it, meaning the light.
Mm-hmm.
In him was life, and the life was the light of men. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overpowered it.
ויהי איש אחד שלוח מאת אלוהים ושמו יוחנן, and there was a certain man sent from God, and his name was Yochanan. That's Hebrew for John. And it goes on and it says, זה בא בעדות להעיד על האור למען אשר יאמינו הכל בעבורו. This one came in testimony to testify concerning the light, in order that they would believe everything because of him. הוא לא היה הדבר, כי אם להעיד על האור. He was not the light, but only testifying concerning the light, meaning John.
There came a man sent from God whose name was John. He came as a witness to testify about the light, so that through him everyone might believe. He was not the light, but he came to bear witness concerning the light.
היה אור אמיתי המאיר לכל אדם הבא אל העולם. It was true light, to shed light on every man who enters into this world. הוא היה בעולם והעולם נעשה בו. He was in the world, and the world was made through him. והעולם לא הכירוהו, and the world did not recognize him. בא אל מולדתו ממש, ובני ביתו לא קיבלוהו. He came to his true homeland or birthplace, and the children of his house did not accept him.
the true light, coming into the world, gives light to every man. He was in the world, and the world was made through him, but the world did not know him. He came to his own, but his own did not receive him.
לכל אשר קיבלו ומאמינים בשמו, נתן ממשלה שיהיו בני האלוהים. And to all those who accepted him and believe in his name, he gave dominion that they would be sons of Elohim. אשר הם לא מדם ולא מחפץ הבשר, Adam, for they were not born out of blood and not out of the desire of flesh. ולא מחפץ אדם נולדו, כי אם מאת האלוהים, not out of the desire of men, but from Elohim. And then it ends. Like, what's next? I don't know.
The last word on the page.
The last word is Elohim, which means God, or the one God, the true God. And then it ends. And we don't know what's next.
But whoever did receive him, those trusting in his name, to those he gave the right to become children of God. They were born not of a bloodline, nor of human desire, nor of man's will, but of God. And the Word became flesh and tabernacled among us. We looked upon his glory, the glory of the one and only, from the Father, full of grace and truth.